Welcome back to QAV America, Tony, episode 13, timestamp, Tuesday the 8th of July in Australia, about 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. It's a Tuesday. We've just done an Australian show where we talked about President Trump's Nobel Peace Prize nomination, and congratulations to him on that, and sure that'll go great, and more tariffs that he announced yesterday that he's going to hit Japan and South Korea with if they don't give him a call and pledge allegiance. And the US markets fell, the Australian market fell, and then woke up and went, what are we doing? And recovered. So
was that a taco trade by the Australian market? Because normally it follows Wall Street up or down, and it didn't. Well, it started to, and then it turned around today. But we do have a Reserve Bank meeting going on now, which may drop interest rates.
I think they had a cup of coffee, all of our traders, and realized that Trump will taco it, and so they went, why are we doing this? Let's just assume he's going to taco it and get back to business. Oh, I don't know what they did.
Who knows? Anyway, Freedom Day number 2 coming up on Monday.
Yes,
Independence 2.
Just volatility all over the place still in the US markets. We are fortunate that because we have a system that ignores noise, most of what's going on, we just go, yeah, whatever, and we focus on the fundamentals.
And make a bit of fun of it too, usually.
Yes. You do you. We will just stick to our knitting. And so today I'm going to, for people that are listening for the first time, QAV is a value-based investing system that Tony has developed over the last 30 years, continues to develop and refine. We call it QAV. It's quality at value. So we're looking for stocks in quality companies, basically companies that seem to be well run and are making money, when we can get them at a discount to their intrinsic valuation. And we have a number of metrics that we look at. And so what I do in these US shows is I generate a buy list using our checklist that we have that scores companies based on a whole range of fundamental metrics. I'll pick one somewhat at random that's on the buy list that's getting a positive score. It comes up as a buy. And then we'll break it down and look at it. Tony and I are both based in Australia. Don't know a lot about the companies that are on the US markets, New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ. And a lot of them are very different sorts of businesses to what we're used to trading with in Australia. So we pull them apart and have a think about them and try and figure out, well, why is this showing up on our buy list? And what do we think of it as an investment? If we do run a US portfolio, it's doing very well. We actually don't have any cash left to invest, so we're not buying the company that I'm talking about today at this stage, but I will ask Tony the question at the end of this. If we had cash to buy, what do you think about this one? And these aren't necessarily recommendations. We're not financial advisors. See a financial advisor before you make any investing decisions. We're just talking about companies that look interesting based on our analysis. And today's company is one called Zepp Health. I immediately liked it because I thought of Zeppo Marx.
I did too.
Yeah, my favorite of all the Marx Brothers. Most underrated of all the Marx Brothers. He was the good-looking one. The good-looking Marx brother.
Didn't get much screen time though.
No, he's too good-looking. Too good-looking. That was his problem. Yeah. He was a DEI hire. DEI diversity.
The Nepo Marx.
The Nepos. Zeppo the Nepo.
Zeppo the
Nepo. ZEPP is the name of the company. Zepp, that's their ticker code as well.
Z.
I will.
This is the US show.
Z, sorry. Yeah. ZEPP. Yeah. My American wife would have corrected me on that as well. But growing up watching Sesame Street, I should have known that anyway. Now, I will just highlight the fact that if you're looking at this in Stockopedia, because that's what our checklist is designed for, this is one of those stocks that we've been talking about lately that does not report in USD. It reports in renminbi, RMB, for reasons that I'll explain soon. So you're going to have to do a little bit of jiggling with the numbers. My other thing to let you know is that I did, after our show last week when we decided to remove the Altman Z score from our checklist, I did do that this morning. Z score. Thank you, Tony. Although, in Pulp Fiction, Bruce Willis says Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
Could never work that out.
Well, because she's French, I guess. Who is Zed? She sees the keys. Who is Zed? Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. And Z's dead, baby doesn't work. No. So Tarantino.
Okay.
No, near the alliteration there. Is that alliteration? No. What's that? It's just rhyming.
It's just rhyme, yeah.
Anywho, yeah. So this company. I had to redo the numbers. The score wasn't as good when I redid it. The quality score wasn't as good, but it still came out positive and still was on the buy list. The reason I picked this one is it wasn't a shipping company and it wasn't a financial services company, so which is what most of them still are. So I did a new buy list yesterday. I hadn't done one for about a month for the US market, so I did do a new one. Pretty much all the same companies that have been on there for the last 6 months, which is fascinating. Even though our portfolio holds a lot of them, and our portfolio is up 40% in the last year or something like that, those companies are still showing up. Anyway, what does this company do? Well, they design and wholesale smartwatches, fitness bands, and health earbuds. They trade under a couple of brands now. Amazfit, but it's no E in the Amaze, so it's Mazfit. Amazfit, which they sell through Amazon, but are not associated with Amazon, but it kind of, when you look at it, you think, oh, this is like Amazon's house brand smartwatches. No. And they also have their own brand, Zepp. They also do some trading through Xiaomi, Ziaomi, big Chinese, I think they're Chinese. Yeah, Chinese hardware company, who I think now have rockets and, pretty much everything that can be built. Xiaomi have these days. But these guys are on the low end of the smartwatch business. So you've got your Apple Watches and you've got your Garmin's, and then you've got your top end, I guess, Android-y type brands. Then you've got all of the low end stuff, which is the majority of it. They're selling roughly sub $200 USD. For a lot of the same functionality that you would get from an Apple Watch. They look like an Apple Watch in a lot of cases, but they're, I don't know what Apple Watches sell for in the US, probably 800 US, I guess. So they sell for a quarter of the price of an Apple Watch. These guys have their own software. They have an OS called Zepp. They have their own chipset, Huangshan, and they're making big investments in AI, which is one of the reasons I think they're an interesting business. I'll talk about that a little bit more later. They do sleep tracking, heart rate analytics. They have all sorts of sport coaching and tracking and all of that kind of stuff, which Apple pushes really hard on their one. Do you have an Apple Watch, Tony?
I do not, no.
Right.
No, I don't need to track my sleep.
I have an Apple Watch.
Do you?
I bought it when I started having heart issues years ago, because I thought if I have a heart attack,
couldn't find it.
I thought if I had a heart attack, I wanted the notification thing that it gives off.
I think you'll know before your watch tells you if you have a heart attack.
You laugh, but that's not necessarily the case. And also, if I fall over, actually, I was passing out a lot then. I was on blood pressure meds that were making me have a lot of. Actually, the real reason I bought it, they were giving me lots of. You'd stand up and you'd get brownouts, and I thought if I'm home alone and I brown out, or even if I'm in my office and Chrissy's somewhere else in this, and I brown out and hit the wall and hit my head, somebody needs to know that I've fallen down. You know, if I lie there by myself for 12 hours, it could not be good.
Have you actually tested that? The only reason
I'm fine
I ask
now.
is Jenny bought an Apple Watch for the same reason, because she's had
All right.
a couple of similar episodes, and one quite bad. And then she wore it and had another episode, didn't get a ping or a text or whatever to say it had happened. So I'm not sure of the veracity of having an Apple Watch for that function.
Well, I think there's plenty of anecdotal evidence out there that it has worked for lots of people. I know my mum has one. We bought my mum one for the same reason, and hers has gone off when she's fallen out of trees and done stuff like that. But also when she's just fallen over, it goes off.
Okay.
It's oversensitive, if anything. Mine has gone off a bunch of
Good.
times if I've been bumped or hit or there's a shock to it or something like that. But fortunately, I haven't had to fall over. I don't have that problem now because I'm off the blood pressure medication now. This was pre-Kung Fu. Now post-Kung Fu, you want me to show you my abs? Do you want to see the current state of my abs?
No.
You do. You want to see it. I took
You
a
can show
photo
me.
and sent it to my...
You can show me your Apple Watch if you like, but that's as far as I'll go.
I took a photo, a shirtless photo, and sent it to my boys the other day. And I'm like, just look at this. This is ridiculous. Look at this. It's insane.
Be careful.
How shredded I am.
You know, they catch people with porn on their computers like that.
54-year-old white man porn sending to his 25-year-old sons.
Mm-hmm. Grooming. I think they call it grooming, don't they?
Anyway, back to Apple Watches.
Or cheap
so these
knockoffs.
guys, cheap knockoffs, yeah. The founding story of this is the founder, Wayne Huang, was a Huawei engineer, and he supposedly hacked a cheap pedometer to a phone battery in 2013 because he kept forgetting to stand up during marathon coding sessions. And he was showing off the contraption at some fair in Shenzhen. Some guy from Xiaomi wrote him a $10 million check, and they launched the business. It was originally called Xiaomi, which meant smart rice, and now then they changed it to Zepp.
Which means?
So, Zeppo Marx, it's named after, I'm pretty sure. Big fans of the less appreciated Marx brother. So, interesting business. They've had a lot of problems. Why?
Swordfish. Password in the Marx Brothers film. Swordfish.
There was a password to what?
Oh, yeah. To the speakeasy. Great scene in the Marx Brothers film where Chico's inside, opens the door in the door, and Groucho says, let me in. Gotta have the password. What's the password? I can't tell you. Anyway, they go through a bit where he says, I can't tell you, it's a swordfish. Is it swordfish? Yeah, come in. And then Harpo goes up to the front door and knocks. Of course, he can't speak the password, so they ask him what the password is. And he opens his jacket and pulls out a swordfish. And they go, oh, come in. I love the Marx Brothers.
That's good. Me too. I keep trying to get Fox to sit down and watch it with me, and he won't.
Really?
Yeah, one day. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they've had a few problems, these guys. COVID closed down gyms, but drove record shipments for their devices in 2020. But there were chip shortages, lockdowns in China, which sort of ended up halving their revenues by 2023. Management axed 15% of staff, moved their final assembly to Vietnam I think partly to reduce costs and also to help try and avoid Trump's tariffs stuff. They also switched focus from contracts they had with Xiaomi, where they had pretty much no margins, to higher margin Amazfit and Zepp brands. They're trying to climb up the value chain. taking their own brand out there, which is what a lot of these Chinese electronics manufacturers do. They start off building it for a bigger brand and then they launch their own and try and build that up. They sold off a unit to Alibaba in 2022, and they've moved their headquarters to the Netherlands for, I think, a bunch of reasons. I'll talk about that more in a moment. But smart wearables are still the biggest part of their revenue mix. The amount of money that they make off the Xiaomi contract is now only about 6% of revenue. Self-branded gear is now 94% of revenue. So they've really switched the business around in the last couple of years. And as I said before, a lot more margin in the self-branded gear. But they're still relatively small. Revenue was about 181 million in FY24. Their FY numbers, I think, are coming out. No, their quarterly numbers are coming out in August. We'll see where they're at. But they recently started turning it around. Their numbers in the last quarterly report was a big turnaround from previous years where they've been losing money. Still not profitable, net profit, as you pointed out off air, but gross profit is positive. They're just spending a lot of money on R&D and moving stuff around to different countries, and a big AI division, big play on AI, which I'll get to a bit later. So they recently moved their headquarters to Gorkum or Gorinchem. It's pronounced both ways, apparently, in the Netherlands. I think for a number of reasons, from what I can understand, reading some of the paperwork and some of the analysis of it, easier to get regulatory approval for medical devices in the EU if they're based in the Netherlands than it is if they're based in China. Also gives some distance between them and China-US tug of wars with tariffs and bans and all that kind of stuff. If they can say, oh, we're not a Chinese company, we're a Dutch company, thank you very much, look at the postal address. Also makes it easy to get EU-funded R&D grant applications. The Netherlands also have some pretty good tax deals that they do for foreign firms. 25.8% headline rate that can actually be reduced down to single digits once you do a bunch of innovation applications and participation exemptions and this kind of stuff. So hundreds of tech multinationals apparently over the last 10 years have moved to the Netherlands to take advantage of these sort of tax schemes that they're offering up. A bit like Ireland was doing 20 years ago. Rotterdam also is Europe's biggest port, so good way to be able to get your stuff out and shipped pretty quickly through there. So anyway, and there's also, I guess they're maybe reading the tea leaves with the TikTok ban in the US. There's not a big step from TikTok is spying on us to Chinese smartwatches and Chinese smartphones are spying on us. They're already done. The Chinese solar panels are spying on us and Chinese Wi-Fi routers are spying on us. And so there's this whole, China's built back doors into chipsets because the CCP has made them do it kind of thing. And who knows, could be true. Anyway, so moving themselves outside of China might be a little bit of a defensive mechanism for that too. Anyway, you want to hear a fun historical story about Gorkum, where they've moved to?
Of course I do, sure.
In 1572, around about the same time Montaigne was writing, harkening back to our last show when I said I'm reading Montaigne's essays, in Gorkum, the Calvinists hanged 19 Franciscan friars, not guys working in a low-end eatery,
right?
But Franciscan
fast order
Catholic.
And when you say hang, they weren't sort of put on they weren't painters, they weren't artists, and they were put on the
No. They were hung for their belief in the transubstantiation. Tony, you were raised a good Catholic boy. Explain to everybody who wasn't what transubstantiation is.
Holy Communion. It's the conversion of the wafer into the body of Christ.
The bread becomes the literal body of Jesus that you then literally eat.
Mm-hmm.
In an act of cannibalism. And they were told to reject that belief, and they refused to do it. So they were hung.
Why did they pick on that
Because
belief and not any of the other
nothing is
myriad beliefs that the Catholic Church has?
Protestants are funny. There's nothing more fun than Christian on Christian violence, because you know it's the religion of peace and love, Tony.
I do.
So
Much more
there's
than all the
nothing
other
that
religions.
says nothing that says peace and love more than hanging other Christians. Anywho, that's Gorkum for you. Maybe that's why they moved there. They're like, that's so cool. Didn't actually get hung. They got hung at a place called Brielle, but anyway, they were from Gorkum. It's just up the road. So the cheap end of the digital watch market is interesting. It's insanely crowded. And the more I read about these, I'm like, why did I buy an Apple Watch? I mean, I don't know. I should just buy one of these things. I don't know if they're not as good as you would expect. But for a quarter of the price, they seem to be pretty good. I looked at the Amazon reviews for these Amaze Fits, and there's some models that aren't as good, but some of the models have really high, like 4.5 out of 5-star reviews from thousands of reviews. Like they seem to be very well liked by their customers. They have a 10-day battery life. I have to charge my Apple Watch once or twice a day, which is no big deal. Like on the power chargers that come with it, you get a full charge in like half an hour. So I go to bed at night, I plug it on the charger when I lie down, and then I read, and half an hour later I take it off the charger and put it on my wrist for the night. And usually when I'm at my desk in the morning, I put it on the charger on my desk for another half an hour, and it fully charges again. And so it's always fully charged. So for me, it's not a big deal because I'm always near a charger. But when I travel, like when I was in the US a couple of years ago, and you're traveling for 24 hours on planes, trains, and automobiles with John Candy, it is a little bit of a hassle, right? You have to put it on low power mode and all that kind of stuff. So these things stay charged for 10 days, apparently, which is pretty good. But they don't have the functionality of an Apple Watch. Right. It is huge. Yeah.
I'll tell you my Apple Watch story about my friend who had one. And we went to the Masters, the golf tournament in the US, a couple of years ago. And you're not supposed to take phones or cameras into the Masters because they control what images that get broadcast. Anyway, we're at the first green, and everyone's quiet while someone's putting. And then my mate's phone goes off. His Apple Watch goes off. He's got a SIM card in it. And because he's the only phone going off on the course, it is really loud. Everyone just turns and looks at him. And he had to sort of dash into the bushes and turn it off.
Wow. Yeah. Dash into the bushes to turn it off. You just put your hand over it like that, turns it off.
Well, I did that first, but everyone's looking at him. Yeah, thinking about throwing him out.
Dashing into the bushes is a good look.
Yeah.
Did he come out dressed as Superman?
No.
Okay.
Came out with his phone turned off.
Disappointing end to that story. IDC clocks 45.6 million wrist wearables were shipped in Q1 of 2025 alone.
Wow.
Apple, Huawei, and Xiaomi chew up about 46% of that, leaving 24 million units spread across all of the smaller brands, including Zeppo. So you got 3 brands that are about 50%, and then hundreds of low-end brands chewing up the other 50%. But this is obviously why they're trying to get themselves up to having some of the more high-end units. But cheapest chips is now the biggest slice. Anything under $200 is called a basic watch when the analysts are breaking down this size, this part of the market. So there's also just the fitness bands. This company has the fitness bands as well. So no screen. It's just an app on your phone that tells you what your heart rate is, and you wear it when you go for a jog and that sort of thing, or a swim, et cetera, et cetera. So if you go into Amazon, and I did this, and you do a quick search for cheap smartwatch, it returns over 30,000 results. And Amazfit, if you type in smartwatch Amazfit, you get 2,000 plus results in Amazon. So that's before you filter for color, for strap, for models. It's incredible. Like, it's a huge, huge space. And it's all lookalike hardware, right? So you've got the rectangular Apple Watch models, which Chinese manufacturers, are just churning out by the millions. Then you've got the ones that look more like a round, whatever, like a Seiko kind of, or a high-end thing. These guys have those too, and it's really interesting. Like, if you look at the photos of them, you think it is a mechanical watch, but it's not. They just have a face that looks like a mechanical watch. You can do that on the Apple Watch too with some third-party tools. Apple doesn't really, and they have got some simplistic ones, but these look like really rugged mechanical watch interfaces, but it's all touchscreen. The bill of materials for one of these is about between 18 and 28 US dollars.
Wow.
That's the kind of margins that we're talking about to build one of these things. Get an OS, throw an OS into it, build a watch, throw in an OS, and it can be in Amazon in 6 weeks. I mean, there's really no barrier to entry for these things at a base level. I'm amazed that, like, it's not, when you're doing a marketing spend and you're getting tote bags and pens and that kind of stuff, people could be doing their own we'll just give you a smartwatch. Here, take a smartwatch. Actually, that reminds me of what Sam Altman said on a podcast recently. He's looking forward to the day when they can give away a humanoid robot for the house with your OpenAI subscription. So we'll just send you a robot. Just have a robot. Here, have a robot on us. And a smartphone, because they're coming out with their own device soon too. Anyway, so you've got all of these low end, it's sort of a race to the bottom with all of this kind of stuff. Some bands go for like 35, 40 US dollars, really low end stuff. So everything from that up to a couple of $100 with a screen interface is the low end. So that's the space that they're playing in. Why are they so cheap? So their operating cash flow is about 35 US million. Kind of flat unit volumes recently though, but their price to operating cash flow is about 1.2. So dirt cheap from a, price to operating cash flow perspective. The battery life is very good, as I said. In fact, just the band, if you have just the fitness band, they have a 24-day battery life versus the Fitbit, which has 6 days.
Why isn't Apple just buying the batteries from this company to put in the Apple Watch?
It's about functionality. So the Apple has way more functionality in it,
right,
and much higher degrees of accuracy on heart rate measurement and all that. There's a bunch of YouTubes. I watched a couple where people will wear 6 watches of major and lower end brands for a month and do a lot of bike rides and swimming and sleep, and then show you all the tracking and how they differ. And these guys, some of their models aren't as good, honestly. Right. And I don't even know how much I trust the Apple one. And some of these are a lot less reliable. But they're all getting better every year, and AI is going to be a big part of this, and this is what I'm getting to with these guys. So they're verticalized, these guys. So they have custom silicon, anyway, that keeps their battery life long. They have a vertical firmware stack, so they avoid paying royalties to people like Google, and their bill of materials can be quite low. They also have a China supply cluster for the basic part of the manufacturing. They do the finish in Vietnam, but some of the lower end stuff is done in China, and it's all nearby Taipei, where their main manufacturing plant is based. So all of their parts supply is next door, right? They also have a fairly tiny ADT. I think I worked it out. It's about $75,000 is the ADT.
Cool.
So it's small cap stock from our perspective. Tiny free float too, about 6 million US. So it's not of interest to big funds, too small for big players, but might be interesting to, people that are on the lower end of an ADT spend. If you're looking at a $10,000, $15,000 parcel size, these guys might be in the sweet spot. So what else have I got here? A lot of their money is still going into R&D. So I mentioned before that gross profit is positive, net profit is negative. Spending a lot of money on R&D, head office overhead, moving their head office to the Netherlands, moving their final stage manufacturing to Vietnam. A lot of marketing to drive their high-end brands, the Amazfit and the Zepp, get away from the Xiaomi low-margin business. So they've been sinking a lot of stuff into that over the last couple of years. Big question is, do they survive and make it into bigger volumes at bigger margins, or do they get squeezed out? Do they get acquired? What happens to them? We don't know. It's one of these businesses that, quite frankly, could go either way. But if we look at some of the numbers that really matter, as I said, prop CAF is very, very low, 1.2, 1.23. No dividend. Their F score is 5. So it's a, middle of the road, slightly above middle of the road F score. But the book value is really interesting. Book value per share is US $15.90. The share price is $2.98. You're muted, so I didn't hear that, but I saw the Owen Wilson. Wow. I just saw your lips move. Wow.
Sorry, yeah. I've turned my mic off when you're talking because it's very windy here. There's probably some leakage going on.
No, I can't hear it. Not unless you're creating the wind. It's going to be far away enough from the mic that we won't hear it. Some leakage. Unless you're the one with the leakage, don't worry about it. The directors, the CEO and the CFO own about 6%, below the 10%, so I didn't score them for that. But they do have some skin in the game. Just not enough for us to score it. So positive cash flow, gadget maker, trading at about 1/5 of book. Getting rid of its worst business line. They've made a lot of pretty interesting management decisions recently, getting rid of staff, moving, etc., etc. But the AI thing is what I want to talk about. So they've massively increased the amount of people on their AI team. The CEO, Wayne Huang, is really focused on this idea of LLM in a watch. He sees that as the future. And I think this is the smart play, honestly. I mean, we know that Apple is really struggling to come up with an AI offering that works. At their most recent announcement day they had, can't even remember what they call them anymore, a couple of weeks ago, they basically fell on their sword over their big AI announcements that they'd made a year earlier. They're like, yeah, we couldn't deliver on any of that. We thought we could, and we couldn't. So the rumors in the industry is that they're looking to buy one of the top tier players that aren't OpenAI or Google or Anthropic. They might buy Perplexity, is the rumor at the moment. And just sort of integrate it into their thing. But there's going to be a huge opportunity. Like the next version of wearable devices is an onboard AI that is listening to everything that happens, tracking everything. Basically, your go-to personal assistant that is on your wrist or in your ear or on your eyes. And there are going to be the top tier, like there's already Meta glasses. And as I said before, OpenAI bought Johnny Ive's business for $6 billion recently, and they're going to come out with a device. They haven't said what. All they've said is it's not a phone. But it's going to be some sort of wearable carry around, always on AI device. But it'll be expensive too, I imagine, until they give it, unless they give it away with one of their top tier subscriptions. These guys are going for the lot.
Did you see the review in the Fin Review this weekend about it's just such a device? It's a brooch. So it's got a magnetic clip. It's about the size of an Apple e-tag. And you clip it onto your shirt or your dress or whatever, and it listens in, records. It seemed to be really just used for you dictating notes. Like if you have a thought, you just say it out loud, and then it'll come back with an AI version of what you've said, tidied up, basically.
Right. I've seen a number of those have come out over the last year. Most of them have failed, like gone out of business because they just can't sell them, because usually they don't work very well. They're flaky. But I don't know, this one you're talking about, maybe they've nailed it. But, there's going to be, like there's a million low-end smartwatches. In the next few years, there'll be a million low-end devices that do that kind of thing. And look, I find it incredibly useful. Like I'm talking to AI all day long. So's Chrissy. We both live, Fox too. We all talk to ChatGPT about everything all day long. And I know you're giving me that skeptical look, but most people will be doing the same thing in the next few years.
That's not what I'm doing. I find it
interesting. I know. But most people will be doing it in the next few years, using it for note-taking and reminders, but also just basic questions about things that you want to know. Like it's simple stuff. I was doing notes for our last show about gold companies, and I couldn't remember the name of the gold company where the CEO was arrested in Africa. And I went through my notes and I couldn't find it quickly. I just said to ChatGPT, hey, about a year ago, there was an Australian mining company operating in Africa. The CEO got arrested, held for a week or so, and then was released because they wanted to squeeze more tax out of him. Who was that? And it was like, well, that was Resolute Mining and the CEO, and it was in Mali. And I was like, yeah, that was him. Thanks. Like, why am I wasting my time going through my notes?
Yeah,
Just ask AI who it was, and it'll tell me. I'm like, yeah, that's who it was. Yeah. That kind of stuff, right? I mean, just stuff that you might have Googled 10 years ago. You don't Google anymore. You ask ChatGPT. Anyway, these guys, I think he's just increased his AI team from 80 people up to 120 people. And, we've seen these Chinese companies like DeepSeek and Quen. There's a ton of AI startups coming out of China these days that are, if not as good as the leading US companies, almost as good, but they're doing it on 1,000th of the investment and the smaller teams, and they're lean and mean and doing a good enough job. And they're free, and, they don't have the same sort of limitations that some of the top tier US models do. So I think this is where these guys are headed over the next few years. But we're not going to forecast. We're not going to invest based on predictions and forecasts. But they meet some of the metrics as it is, and then they're pushing hard into this stuff. Not only in terms of the other stuff that I talked about, but a lot of health-based stuff, like more accurate health readings, because the AI is able to do a much better job of analyzing the data. Generative AI workout plans, have a camera on your device that you take a photo of your meal and it does your calorie counts. And, pretty much my entire weight loss success in the last year is based on ChatGPT. I mean, using ChatGPT to guide and monitor and track the whole thing the whole way along. I couldn't have done it without AI. So we're at the very early stages. It was a combination. I did Kung Fu for years without losing weight. And then I said to GPT, okay, I'm doing a lot of Kung Fu. I'm not losing weight. He goes, well, you're probably eating too much. I'm like, okay, let's start to track my calories more. And let's cut my calories by 500 calories a day. What should I eat? How should I eat it? When should I eat it? How do I do that? How do I cut my calorie count but still keep my nutritional levels correct, get enough protein, enough fiber, enough nutrients? It's guided me through that whole process. Anyway, let me just go through the raw numbers for you. As I said, price price is less than book. We scored it for that. Plus, of course, less than book plus 30. Price to operating cash flow is less than 7. Petrovsky score is greater than 4.5. What it failed on was the IVs. It did pass IV number 2 greater than double the price the first time around until I rejigged it for RMB, and then it failed the IV metrics. It fails quality rank. It fails stock rank. Quality rank is 40 in Stockopedia. Stock rank is 60. Yield doesn't have one, so it's not greater than the bank debt. Growth over PE is not getting a score because there is no PE. So it fails on a lot of those basic metrics, but it's making money, even though it's spending a lot on R&D and those other sorts of things. And it's, making a lot of good strategic decisions. It's building it's investing in this AI. It's investing in building up its primary core high margin business. Whether or not it survives, if it doesn't survive, it might get taken private, or it might get... Xiaomi does have an option to buy it back. I think it's got some sort of an exclusive pact which lapses next year, so they might scoop it up at some sort of a premium, or one of these EU med tech firms like Philips or ResMed might scoop it up, or it could just go out of business. All sorts of things could happen here, but on paper, I thought, yeah, I like this. I like the play. I like it. I like what they're doing. They seem to be doing their best to handle some of the challenges of the last few years, and I think it's cool. So that is Zepp, Tony. What do you think?
Yeah, thank you. I love the valuation of buying it so cheaply. To me, that's always how you work out whether the risk is worth taking. It's in the price, isn't it? If you get paid back within a year or paid back within 2 years, then it takes all the risk off the table. The company's only got to survive for another year to get your money back. So, I think it's looks. I've got no opinion on whether low cost smartwatches are the way to go or wearable AI is going to be a thing. But buying something for less than book value and at 1 times cash flow, it seems like almost a no-brainer for me. It takes all the risk off the table.
I didn't mention too, they have 45 million customers. I mean, they're not a startup that hasn't done anything. They've been around since 2013, right? They've been around for over a decade. 43 million customers. They're being sold in millions of countries, being sold all over the world. We were talking off air. You said we don't often see in Australia. We don't often see businesses like this that are not making a profit. So it's a technology business that's been around for a long time, is making money, although it's reinvesting all of that back into the business, but is also low prop calf. Like a lot of tech, if there are tech businesses in Australia that are growing fast and not making a profit, but and they have a great story, we're going to have 1 billion customers and we're going to take over this and take over that. Usually their PEs are insane and their valuations are insane, and we won't even look at them because they're nowhere close to being a value buy for us. These guys are, sort of the best of both worlds. They are a tech business. There is a potential growth story there. They're not a cigar butt stock that's, they're not Berkshire Hathaway with bloody whatever their original business was when Warren bought it. What was it? Cotton mills.
Yeah.
It's not a dying industry here. It's exploding industry with a lot of competition. Yes, but it's an exploding industry, but it's also really, really cheap for us. So anyway.
And I think the interesting play is that there's not big free float for a large company. So that's the interesting thing. He keeps a lot of, as you said, large funds or any funds out of the market for it, which allows us to buy in. But it can be good and bad because if there is a takeover for the company and the founders agree to it, it'll be at a premium, a large premium, which means the minor shareholders will make out really well, usually. But it can go the other way too. If there's a profit downgrade or whatever, then and there's not much trade. It's thinly traded, so the price can move a lot. What I'm getting at, really. It's like a leverage price move. Yeah.
I didn't actually talk about their recurring revenues too. They have a subscription-based sleep and coaching service that's got much higher margins than the hardware. So yeah, and they've got 200 million devices that are sitting on recurring data. Plus a training pipe, because they collect data from all those devices too and feed them back into their AI. Anyway, that's Zepp. So not a recommendation. Do your own research, do your own work, but on the surface of it, I think it's worth a look.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. Very interesting company.
That is QAV America for this week.
And if there are any Australian listeners out there, the RBA has kept rates on hold.
Whoa! Beers are on Tony tonight.
No. I want them to cut. So they're...
I know. That's what I'm saying. You got it wrong. You got to buy the beers.
Oh, okay. Anyway, market's down 0.25% in Australia now. Not quite as much as Wall Street, but it's reversed where it was going before we started recording.
It's funny because I didn't read the Fin story that I had in my notes, but it was market widely expects an RBA rate cut, except these 5 economists.
Were they all RBA
Traders
board
and
members?
Economists. No, but it was guys at Citi, Beta Shares, Morgan's Financial, and Macroeconomics Advisory said they expect. Oh, Bank of America was the 5th. Said that they thought they would hold. So there you go. Good day to be one of those 5 economists.
Can our US listeners get Donald Trump to write a tweet? Too slow. The dumb RBA governor. He's got to go.
Do you think Australia I know Trump can't fire the US Reserve Bank governor. Can he fire the Australian Reserve Bank governor?
No, but he could double our tariffs until she goes.
There you go. Sorry, Michelle. All right. Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Cam.